Bow or die, American whore. The ISIS commander's breath reeked of tobacco and hatred as he pressed the pistol against Lieutenant Maya Chen's temple. 23 years old, kneeling in Syrian dirt, hands zip-tied behind her back while 40 armed men watched. They saw a terrified girl analyst who'd gotten lost. They didn't see the Arabic calligraphy tattooed under her sleeve. Khalid al-Zawahiri, the terrorist she'd killed with her bare hands 18 months ago in a Yemeni black site. They didn't know ghosts don't stay buried. In 90 seconds, she'd prove dead girls make the best killers. Before we continue, if you're watching from anywhere in the world, hit that subscribe button and drop your location in the comments below. Stay until the end. This story will change how you see quiet women forever. Now, let's begin. The briefing room at Forward Operating Base Viper smelled like stale coffee, male arrogance, and the particular contempt men reserve for women they've already decided don't belong. Maya stood at parade rest near the back wall, tactical vest over her uniform, while Colonel Richard Brennan pointed at satellite imagery projected on the screen. Rebecca Holt, American journalist, 34 years old, kidnapped 72 hours ago, crossing from Turkey into northern Syria. Brennan's voice carried the confidence of a man who'd never been catastrophically wrong about anything important. Intelligence confirms she's held at this compound, approximately 40 kilometers inside hostile territory. Captain Derek Stone leaned back in his chair, boots propped on the table like he owned the entire theater of operations. 29 years old, Ranger School graduate, possessor of opinions he'd never actually field-tested against reality. "We go in heavy," Stone said. 2 platoons, mechanized assault, air support, shock and awe. These ISIS remnants respect one thing: overwhelming force. Maya's jaw tightened. She'd read the intelligence reports Stone apparently hadn't bothered reviewing. The compound sat in a valley with one viable approach road, perfect ambush terrain. Heavy vehicles meant noise, dust signatures visible for kilometers. Air support required assets they didn't currently possess because the nearest Apache squadron was committed to operations 200 kilometers south. She raised her hand, not aggressive, just present. Brennan noticed with visible irritation. "Staff Sergeant Chen, you have something to contribute?" Every eye in the room turned. 14 men, most with combat patches, all with assumptions about what intelligence analysts did and didn't understand about real operations. "Sir, mechanized assault in that terrain profile creates multiple points of failure." Maya kept her voice level, professional. "Single approach route, no air support availability. Enemy force estimated at 40+ hostiles who've had 72 hours to prepare defensive positions. We'd be pushing directly into a prepared kill zone." Stone laughed. Actually laughed. "And what would you suggest, sweetheart? Ask them nicely to release her?" Small footprint insertion, 4 personnel. Stealth approach using terrain masking and darkness. Navigate to the compound, locate the journalist, extract before enemy forces can effectively respond. The room erupted. Not discussion, derision. 4 people against 40? Lieutenant Marcus Webb shook his head. "That's suicide." 4 people are significantly harder to detect than 40 vehicles, Maya said. "And if we're discovered, small unit tactics provide better mobility and survivability than mechanized convoy operating in restricted terrain." Stone stood up, walked toward her with theatrical slowness. He stopped 3 feet away, studying her like something amusing he'd found on his boot. "Let me explain something about combat, since you've clearly never experienced actual contact." His voice dripped condescension. "Real operators, men who've been downrange, who've stacked bodies. We understand that war isn't some intelligence analysis problem you solve with pretty maps and satellite photos. It's violence. It's chaos. And it requires physical capability and mental toughness that..." He paused deliberately. certain people simply don't possess. Maya felt her pulse rate increase. Controlled breathing. 4-count inhale, 4-count hold, 4-count exhale. The burn scars across her lower back, souvenirs from a vehicle-borne IED in Mosul, began their phantom pain routine. They always did when her blood pressure spiked. Girls play analyst, Stone continued. Men do the killing. That's not sexism. That's biology, operational reality, and common sense. Brennan watched this exchange with the expression of someone who agreed but couldn't say it explicitly. He'd cite regulations if pressed, mention equal opportunity policies, but his silence spoke volumes. Maya looked at Stone directly, maintained eye contact without blinking, waited until he shifted uncomfortably. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" she asked Brennan. "Granted." "Captain Stone's mechanized assault will result in catastrophic failure. The enemy has prepared that compound specifically for this scenario. They know our doctrine. They've studied our response patterns. Heavy assault plays directly into their defensive preparation. Rebecca Holt will be dead before your vehicles clear the first checkpoint, and we'll lose personnel trying to extract from an ambush we walked directly into." Stone's face flushed red. "You're an analyst who's been in country for 6 months. I've done 4 combat rotations." "Then you should know better." Maya's voice remained calm, flat, the tone her father had used when he was genuinely disappointed rather than merely angry. "Sir, I volunteer to lead the stealth extraction. 4 personnel, minimal footprint, high probability of success if executed correctly." The room went absolutely silent. Brennan stared at her. "You're volunteering to lead a direct action mission into hostile territory?" "Yes, sir." Stone recovered his voice. "This is absurd. She's never led anything more dangerous than a PowerPoint presentation." Maya almost told them. Almost explained that she'd led 13 classified operations in denied areas. Almost mentioned the Silver Star citation that existed in a vault somewhere with her real operational history. Almost revealed that Staff Sergeant Maya Chen, intelligence analyst, was administrative fiction covering for Phantom, the JSOC asset who'd been declared KIA in Yemen to provide operational security. Instead, she said nothing, just maintained eye contact with Brennan, waiting. Brennan saw an opportunity, a way to prove his point about capability limitations without explicitly stating discriminatory policy. If she succeeded, unlikely, it solved his problem. If she failed or died, it validated everything he believed about who belonged in kinetic roles. "Fine," Brennan smiled. "You want to prove women belong in direct action? Here's your chance, Staff Sergeant. You have authorization to select 3 personnel. You've got 6 hours to plan and 12 hours of darkness to locate Rebecca Holt and return her to friendly control. Bow to operational reality and decline, or die trying to prove a point I already know is false." Stone couldn't resist. "Maybe bring some tampons for when you start crying about how hard it is." The room erupted in laughter. Not all of them. A few officers looked uncomfortable, but enough. Enough to make the contempt clear. Maya nodded once. "I'll need Staff Sergeant Luis Vargas from the ODA team, Specialist Aisha Kamara from SIGINT, and Corporal James Sullivan from Medical." "Denied." Brennan shook his head. "Vargas is assigned to primary assault operations. You'll work with available personnel only." It was another setup. Vargas was the only person in this entire FOB who knew her real background, who'd served alongside Phantom during operations they couldn't discuss. Without him, she'd be leading people who didn't trust her into terrain that would kill anyone making mistakes. "Understood, sir. Then I'll take Kamara, Sullivan, and..." Maya paused, scanning the room. "Corporal Tyler Grant from the motor pool." Grant looked up, surprised. 22 years old, vehicle mechanic, zero combat experience beyond basic training. He'd also grown up hunting in Montana wilderness and could navigate terrain using nothing but landmarks and instinct. Permission to ask why the hell you'd select a mechanic for direct action, Brennan asked. Because he has the skills I need for this specific terrain and mission profile, sir. Brennan waved dismissively. Your funeral. Dismissed. Brief your team. Movement timeline begins at 2200 hours. And, Staff Sergeant, when this fails, when you're calling for extraction from an ambush you led your team into, remember that I gave you every opportunity to decline. Maya saluted, executed a perfect about-face, and walked out while the room erupted in conversation behind her. In the hallway, she leaned against the concrete wall, finally allowing her hands to shake. Not from fear, from rage. From the exhaustion of being underestimated. From carrying secrets that created distance between who she was and who everyone believed her to be. Her hand moved unconsciously to her left forearm, touching fabric that concealed the tattoo beneath. Khalid al-Zawahiri, the name inked there in classical Arabic script. The terrorist financier she'd eliminated in a Yemeni black site using a combat knife because suppressed gunfire would have compromised the exfiltration. The mission had gone catastrophically wrong. Her 6-person team had been ambushed during extract. She'd been the only survivor, declared KIA to provide operational cover, then returned to conventional forces under her real identity, trying to find something approaching normal. But normal didn't exist for ghosts, and ghosts carried their dead with them everywhere they went. Maya pulled the photograph from her cargo pocket, the one she'd carried through 4 countries and more firefights than she could count. Sergeant First Class Rachel Ortiz, 31 years old, brilliant tactician, Maya's mentor, and the closest thing to family she'd known in the military. The photograph captured Rachel at a forward operating base in Mosul, grinning despite dust and exhaustion, arm around a younger Maya who still believed the work meant something beyond adding names to casualty lists. Rachel had died 7 months later during a vehicle ambush. Not instantly, that would have been mercy. She'd bled out from a femoral artery injury while Maya maintained pressure with both hands, screaming for medevac that arrived 4 minutes too late. Rachel's last words, "Don't let them make you small. Finish the fight." Maya had promised. Standing beside Rachel's flag-draped coffin at Arlington while her mother sobbed and fellow soldiers saluted, Maya had promised she'd continue the mission, would protect people, would honor Rachel's sacrifice by being better than everyone expected. But promises made to the dead had weight that crushed the living. Footsteps approached. Staff Sergeant Luis Vargas rounded the corner, stopped when he saw her. 31 years old, former Delta Force, reassigned to conventional forces after an operation went wrong in ways that required congressional oversight. He studied Maya with eyes that had seen too much. "Heard you just volunteered for a suicide mission." "Heard I was denied your support for that suicide mission." Vargas leaned against the wall beside her. "Brennan's setting you up to fail. You know that, right?" "I know." Maya returned the photograph to her pocket. "Doesn't change what needs doing." "You could decline, request reassignment, get away from this toxic environment." "Could. Won't." She looked at him directly. "Rebecca Holt has been held for 72 hours. Every additional hour increases the probability of execution. Stone's mechanized assault will get her killed and cost American lives. My approach has a chance." Vargas considered this. "Phantom would have had a good chance, but Phantom's dead. You're just an analyst now, remember? That's your cover. That's the story you're committed to." The nickname hit like physical impact. Nobody was supposed to know that designation. It existed in classified files accessible only by personnel with specific clearances and need-to-know authorizations. "How long have you known?" Maya asked quietly. Since you arrived. Recognized your movement patterns, the way you process threat assessment, how you maintain situational awareness without appearing vigilant. Vargas smiled slightly. Spent 8 months working alongside JSOC assets in Syria. You've got their fingerprints all over you. Different name, same operator. Maya felt her carefully constructed cover disintegrating. If you report that... Report what? That I suspect our intelligence analyst has more field experience than she admits? Based on what evidence? My gut feeling? Vargas shook his head. Your secret's safe. But here's my question. Why are you hiding? Why pretend to be something you're not? The burn scars across Maya's back throbbed. Phantom pain from nerve damage that existed only in her brain's interpretation of destroyed tissue. Because Phantom got people killed, she said quietly. Because that version of me believed violence solved problems, instead of creating new ones. Because I'm trying to be human, instead of weapon. And humans don't terminate targets in black sites and walk away like it didn't cost them pieces of their soul. Vargas understood. She saw it in his eyes, the recognition that came from carrying similar weight. Rachel Ortiz, he said. She died in your arms. Maya's throat constricted. You know about that too? Heard the story. Female combat veteran who lost her mentor during vehicle ambush carried that grief into increasingly dangerous operations until she was running missions that should have required full teams, but she executed solo because she had nothing left to lose. He paused. That's not sustainable, Maya. Eventually, your luck runs out, or you become the thing you're fighting against. Then I guess this mission is perfect timing. Maya pushed off the wall. I need to brief my team, if you'll excuse me. Maya. Vargas's voice stopped her. You don't have to do this alone. I can't officially join your team, but I can make sure your equipment is optimal, can verify your route planning, can position myself to provide emergency support if things deteriorate. She almost declined, almost told him she'd dragged enough people into her darkness. Then she remembered Rachel's words. Don't let them make you small. Route verification would be appreciated, Maya said. And Vargas? Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you bring everyone home alive. Maya found her team in the intelligence shop. Specialist Aisha Kamara looked up from her communications monitoring station, 25 years old, brilliant signals analyst who'd never left the wire on combat operations. Staff Sergeant Chen? Aisha's voice carried uncertainty. I heard... Are we really going into hostile territory? Like actually outside the FOB? Corporal James Doc Sullivan sat nearby, 24, combat medic with 2 deployments and eyes that had seen too many casualties. He was reorganizing his medical kit for the 3rd time, therapeutic repetition for trauma he couldn't process any other way. Corporal Tyler Grant stood by the door, confused about why a mechanic had been selected for direct action. Maya pulled detailed topographic maps, spread them across the table. Gather around. We've got 6 hours to plan an operation that everyone expects will fail. I need you to understand something before we begin. I will not lie to you about the danger. This mission has multiple points of catastrophic failure. We're operating in hostile territory with no air support, no backup, and leadership that expects us to die, proving a point about capability limitations. Aisha's hands trembled slightly. Then why are we going? Because Rebecca Holt doesn't deserve to die because Colonel Brennan can't imagine women succeeding at difficult tasks. Because someone has to prove that careful planning beats arrogant assumptions. And because... Maya paused. I made promises to someone I lost. Promises about protecting people, about finishing fights, about being better than expected. Doc looked up from his medical kit. Rachel Ortiz, I heard about her. Heard you were there when she died. Maya nodded. Every mission since then has been about honoring her sacrifice, about proving her faith in me wasn't misplaced. She touched the map. This is how we're going to succeed. For the next 4 hours, Maya conducted detailed planning that drew on every classified operation she'd executed as Phantom. Routes that avoided enemy observation positions, timeline that exploited known patrol patterns, equipment that balanced capability against weight, contingencies for scenarios ranging from bad weather to hostile contact. Grant proved invaluable. His wilderness navigation experience translated directly to terrain association using landmarks rather than GPS. Aisha overcame her fear through understanding the communications plan. Doc's trauma processing found focus in medical preparation. Vargas appeared twice. First to verify route selection, second to deliver specialized equipment that wasn't on standard issue lists. Night vision optics with better resolution, suppressed weapons, emergency beacon that would alert JSOC assets if everything went wrong. Where'd this equipment come from? Maya asked quietly. Don't ask questions that might require me to lie, Vargas said. Just bring everyone home. At 2100 hours, Stone found them in the staging area. He watched Maya check equipment with the particular attention to detail that marked operators rather than analysts. Last chance to quit, Stone said. Admit this was stupid pride talking. Let real soldiers handle the rescue. Maya looked at him. Captain Stone, in approximately 9 hours, you're going to learn something important about assumptions. I'd suggest preparing yourself for that education. Education? Stone laughed. The only lesson tomorrow teaches is that some people belong in combat and others belong behind desks. You're about to get people killed proving you don't know the difference. Maya finished her equipment check, secured her plate carrier, picked up her suppressed M4 carbine. Sir, with respect, the only person who's risked lives through incompetent tactical planning is you. Your mechanized assault would have failed catastrophically. Remember that when we return with Rebecca Holt. Stone's face flushed. When you fail, and you will fail, I'll personally write your memorial citation. Something appropriately tragic about misguided ambition. Maya turned away without responding. Some arguments couldn't be won with words. Only results mattered. At 2200 hours, her team loaded into 2 MRAPs, mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles designed to survive IED strikes. The compound was 40 kilometers into hostile territory through terrain that degraded from bad to impossible. Maya sat in the lead vehicle's passenger seat, map across her lap, studying terrain features she'd memorized but reviewing anyway. Preparation was the difference between dying and surviving. Aisha sat behind her, attempting to control her breathing. Staff Sergeant, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why do you do this? Why risk everything when people like Stone will never respect it, no matter how well you perform? Maya touched her forearm where the tattoo remained hidden beneath fabric. Khalid al-Zawahiri's name. The weight of killing that stayed with you forever. Because proving Stone wrong isn't the mission, Maya said quietly. Saving Rebecca Holt is the mission. Everything else is just noise. The vehicles rolled out into darkness. Behind them, forward operating base Viper's lights faded. Ahead, 40 kilometers of hostile territory waited. And somewhere in that darkness, a journalist counted her final hours, unaware that rescue was coming from the most unlikely direction possible. A dead girl who refused to stay buried. The first MRAP hit the improvised explosive device at kilometer marker 7, exactly where Maya had predicted enemy forces wouldn't place ordnance because the terrain already functioned as a natural choke point. She'd been wrong. The explosion lifted the rear vehicle 3 feet off the ground. The overpressure wave slammed through Maya's chest, even inside the lead MRAP. Her ears rang with the specific high-pitched whine that came from being too close to detonating explosives. "Contact rear!" Grant shouted from the driver's seat, already maneuvering their vehicle into defensive position. Maya keyed her radio. "Doc, status report!" Static. Then Doc's voice, strained but functional. "We're intact. Vehicle's damaged but mobile. Sullivan's got a nosebleed from the concussion, but we're combat effective." "Can you continue?" "Negative. Rear axle's compromised. We're immobile." Maya's mind raced through contingencies. Abandon the vehicle and compress everyone into the lead MRAP, or split the team, with half providing security while the other continued the mission. Neither option was good. Both options could get people killed. "Staff Sergeant, we need to make a call." Grant's hands gripped the steering wheel.
"We've got maybe 90 seconds before enemy forces respond to that explosion. They know we're here now."
Aisha's breathing accelerated in the back seat. Not quite panic, but approaching it.
"This is bad. This is really bad. They're going to surround us, and we don't have air support and—"
"Aisha!" Maya's voice cut through the rising hysteria.
"Control your breathing. 4-count inhale, 4-count hold, 4-count exhale. Do it now."
Aisha complied, hands shaking but following instructions. Maya made her decision. "Doc, abandon vehicle. Transfer all essential equipment to lead MRAP. We continue with 1 vehicle, compressed timeline. 30 seconds to transfer, then we move." "Understood." The next 30 seconds were controlled chaos. Doc and his driver sprinted between vehicles, hauling medical equipment, ammunition, communications gear. Maya maintained security through her night vision, scanning for enemy movement in the green-tinted landscape.
15 seconds in, she spotted them.
4 thermal signatures, approximately 400 meters northwest, moving toward the explosion site. Not running, tactical approach, using terrain for cover. "Contact northwest, 400 meters. 4 hostiles advancing on our position." Maya's voice remained level, despite her heart rate spiking to 120.
"We're leaving in 10 seconds whether transfer is complete or not."
Doc dove into the back of the MRAP with 5 seconds remaining. His driver followed, slamming the door as Grant accelerated before it fully closed.
"They're going to follow us,"
Aisha said, stating the obvious, because saying something felt better than silence.
"Let them follow," Maya said. "We're abandoning the vehicle in 2 kilometers anyway. Vehicular movement was always temporary. The real mission begins when we go dismounted."
Grant navigated through terrain that degraded from bad road to barely navigable trail. The MRAP's engine screamed in low gear, transmission protesting as they climbed elevation through switchbacks that had been designed for donkeys, not military vehicles. At kilometer 9, the trail ended entirely. Just stopped, replaced by rocky terrain impossible for any wheeled vehicle. "End of the line," Grant announced, killing the engine. They dismounted into darkness so complete that without night vision, the world ceased to exist. Maya checked her watch. 23:17 hours. They'd lost 47 minutes to the IED and vehicle transfer. Their timeline was already compromised.
"Equipment check,"
Maya ordered.
"Verify you have everything essential. Anything non-critical stays with the vehicle."
Doc inventoried his medical supplies, reducing weight by removing items he could improvise replacements for. Aisha checked her communications equipment 3 times, obsessive verification born from fear of equipment failure.
Grant distributed water and ammunition, ensuring load balance.
Maya pulled her map, compared terrain features to what she could observe through night vision. They were 3 kilometers north of planned route, elevation approximately 200 meters higher. The deviation would add distance, but provided better observation of the valley where the compound sat.
Route modification,
she announced, tracing the new path with a red-filtered flashlight.
We move northeast along this ridgeline, then descend into the valley from the eastern approach. Adds 45 minutes, but puts us above the compound with gravity advantage for final approach.
That's not the route you briefed, Aisha said. We planned for southern approach.
Plans change when you hit IEDs,
Maya said.
Rigid adherence to compromised plans gets people killed. We adapt.
They moved out in tactical column, Maya on point, navigating by terrain association and the particular instinct that came from doing this in places where mistakes meant dying. Grant followed at 5-meter interval, then Aisha, then Doc pulling rear security with the team's designated marksman rifle. The terrain fought them immediately. Loose scree that collapsed under boots, creating noise discipline nightmares. Elevation gain that transformed breathing into physical labor at altitude. Temperature dropping toward freezing despite daytime heat. 30 minutes into movement, Aisha stumbled, nearly fell. Doc caught her arm.
I can't do this,
Aisha whispered.
I'm not trained for this. I monitor radio intercepts. I don't do nighttime infiltration through hostile territory.
Maya stopped the column, moved back to Aisha's position, knelt so they were eye level.
Aisha, listen to me. You're doing fine. Better than fine.
You're maintaining interval. You're keeping noise discipline. You're moving through terrain that would challenge personnel with years of infantry experience.
I'm terrified,
Aisha said, voice breaking.
Every shadow looks like enemy fighters. Every sound makes me think we're about to get shot.
Good. Fear keeps you alert. Fear maintains survival instinct. Maya gripped Aisha's shoulder.
Rachel Ortiz told me something before she died. She said courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the mission despite being terrified. You're being courageous right now, even if it doesn't feel like it. Who was Rachel Ortiz?
Maya hesitated, then decided honesty mattered more than operational security. My mentor. Best tactical mind I ever worked with. She died in my arms during a vehicle ambush in Mosul. Bled out from a femoral artery injury while I tried to save her. Her last words were, "Finish the fight." So that's what I do. Every mission, every operation. I finish fights because she can't anymore. Aisha wiped tears that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Be better. Honor the people we've lost by being better than they expect us to be. Maya stood.
Can you continue? Yes, Staff Sergeant.
They resumed movement. The ridgeline seemed endless, each rise revealing another beyond it. Maya's legs burned with lactic acid accumulation. The burn scars across her back began their nightly phantom pain ritual, nerve damage creating sensations in tissue that had been destroyed and rebuilt. At 0030 hours, Grant raised his fist, tactical signal for halt. Everyone froze. Grant pointed downward. Through night vision, Maya spotted the thermal signatures immediately. 8 personnel, approximately 200 meters below their position, moving in patrol formation along the valley floor. Enemy patrol. Between them and the compound. Maya signaled her team into defensive positions behind available cover. They waited, barely breathing, while 8 Taliban fighters passed directly beneath their location. The fighters moved with confidence, talking in low voices, clearly comfortable in terrain they controlled. One fighter stopped, looked upwards toward the ridgeline where Maya's team hid. For 5 eternal seconds, Maya was certain they'd been spotted. Her finger moved to a rifle's trigger, calculating engagement sequence if contact was initiated. The fighter turned away, continued with his patrol. The voices faded into darkness. Maya counted to 60 after the last thermal signature disappeared, then signaled continue movement.
"That was too close,"
Doc whispered.
"Close doesn't matter,"
Maya replied.
"Only results matter. We weren't detected. We continue."
Another 45 minutes of movement brought them to the observation position Maya had selected from map study,
A natural rock formation providing cover and concealment, elevation advantage, and direct line of sight to the compound 400 meters below in the valley.
Maya glassed the area through her night vision optic. The compound was larger than intelligence photos had suggested. Central building surrounded by defensive walls, guard towers at 3 corners, vehicles parked in what appeared to be a motor pool. Thermal signatures everywhere. She counted carefully. 12, 15, 20, 23.
"Intelligence said 40+ hostiles,"
Maya whispered to her team.
"I'm counting at least 23, and that's only personnel currently visible. Actual strength could be significantly higher."
"We're 4 people," Aisha said, stating the mathematical problem they all understood. Grant studied the compound through his own optic. "Central building, 2nd floor, northwest corner. See that window with light?" Maya shifted her aim point.
Single window, dim illumination, unlike the rest of the compound, which maintained tactical darkness.
"Someone's awake in there," Grant continued. "Isolated room, single light source. That's where I'd keep a high-value prisoner." Maya agreed. The tactical logic made sense. Separate the prisoner from general population, maintain visual control, prevent escape attempts through isolation.
"We need confirmation before we commit to assault,"
Maya said. She pulled her radio, keyed the frequency that should connect to FOB Viper. Static. She tried again. More static.
"Communications are down,"
Aisha said, already working on her equipment.
"The terrain masking that's hiding us from the compound is also blocking out transmission to FOB Viper. We're operating completely autonomous now."
Doc processed the implications. "So, if this goes wrong, nobody knows where we are or that we need help."
"Which means we don't let it go wrong," Maya said.
"We execute perfectly because perfect is our only option."
She studied the compound for another 7 minutes, timing patrol patterns, identifying defensive weaknesses, calculating approach routes. The compound had been designed to defend against conventional assault. Multiple fighting positions, overlapping fields of fire, prepared obstacles. But it hadn't been designed to defend against 4 personnel infiltrating from elevated terrain, using darkness and specialized equipment.
"Here's how we do this,"
Maya said, gathering her team close.
"Grant and Doc establish position here. You're our overwatch and emergency extraction. Grant, you've got the designated marksman rifle. If contact is initiated, you provide precision fire on anyone threatening us. Doc, you maintain security and prepare for casualty treatment."
"And you and Aisha?" Doc asked. "We infiltrate the compound, locate Rebecca Holt, extract her."
Exfiltrate to this position for team consolidation, then move to primary extraction point for vehicle pickup.
Aisha's eyes widened.
"Just the 2 of us are going into a compound with 23+ armed hostiles?"
"Just the 2 of us," Maya confirmed. "Smaller element, lower detection probability. And Aisha, I need you specifically, because if we lose communications or compromise the mission, you're the only person who can improvise electronic warfare solutions." It was partially true. It was also because Maya refused to risk Grant and Doc on an infiltration that might require skills she hadn't revealed she possessed. If this required Phantom's capabilities, close quarters combat, silent killing, operating in darkness like a weapon instead of a person, she'd rather only Aisha witness that transformation.
"When do we move?"
Aisha asked. Maya checked her watch. 01:15 hours. We've got approximately 4 hours until sunrise.
Optimal infiltration window is 0200 hours, when human circadian rhythm is at lowest alertness. We move in 45 minutes. She pulled her suppressed Sig Sauer M17 pistol, conducted press check to verify chambered round, confirmed suppressor was properly seated, drew her Benchmade sock knife, tested edge sharpness against her thumbnail. The blade could shave hair, sharp enough to penetrate flesh and sever arteries without snagging on tissue. Grant watched her equipment check with expression that suggested recognition. "Staff Sergeant, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "You move like someone with extensive close-quarters combat training, not basic combatives, actual specialized training in killing people quietly." He paused. "Where'd you learn that?" Maya met his eyes, considered various responses, selected honesty because lies created complications. "Places that don't appear on my official service record," she said quietly. "Doing things that officially never happened, for reasons I can't discuss with personnel who don't have specific clearances." "Phantom." Doc said the word like he'd just solved a puzzle. "That's why Vargas gave you specialized equipment. That's why you navigate like someone who's done infiltration operations professionally. You're not really an analyst, are you?" Maya felt her cover collapsing in real time. "What I am or was doesn't matter. What matters is bringing Rebecca Holt home alive." "But if you're—" Aisha started. "We're not having this conversation," Maya interrupted. "We're 4 personnel in hostile territory with a mission. My background is irrelevant to mission accomplishment. Are we clear?" Silence. Then 3 simultaneous nods. Maya returned to studying the compound. At 01:57 hours, she stood, secured her equipment, looked at Aisha. "Time to move. Stay close. Maintain noise discipline. If I signal you to freeze, you become a statue. If I signal danger, you take cover immediately. If contact is initiated and I tell you to run, you run back to this position without hesitation. Understood?" "Understood," Aisha whispered, voice trembling but present. They began their descent into the valley, where 23 armed men waited, where Rebecca Holt counted her final hours, where Maya Chen would finally stop pretending to be something she wasn't and become the ghost that refused to stay buried. Behind them, Grant watched through his optic, finger resting near his trigger, praying he wouldn't need to fire. Beside him, Doc prepared trauma equipment, knowing that in approximately 90 minutes, someone would probably need his skills to prevent dying. And in the compound below, Abu Samir finished his evening prayers, completely unaware that death was descending from the darkness, wearing the face of a 23-year-old woman he'd already decided would beg before she died. The first guard died without making a sound. Maya's knife entered beneath his jaw, angled upward through soft palate into brainstem. His body went instantly limp. She lowered him to the ground with her free hand while withdrawing the blade, already moving toward the second sentry before the first had finished dying. Aisha stood frozen 3 meters behind, watching Maya transform from analyst into something else entirely. Something that moved through darkness like it belonged there. Something that killed with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd done this before, in places nobody talked about. Maya signaled advance. Aisha followed, stepping carefully around the body, trying not to look at the spreading pool of blood that appeared black through night vision. They'd penetrated the compound perimeter through a drainage culvert that Maya had identified from satellite imagery. The culvert opened into the compound's eastern section, near the motor pool, away from primary guard positions. Intelligence failure meant nobody had known the culvert existed. Maya's training meant she'd looked for it specifically because defensive positions always had weaknesses, if you knew where to look. Inside the compound walls, they moved along the shadows, using parked vehicles for cover.
Maya counted thermal signatures through her optic. 26 now. 3 more than initial count. Personnel were waking up, moving between buildings, conducting activities she couldn't determine from this distance. The central building was 40 meters away across open ground. No cover, no concealment. Just exposed dirt compound that would leave them visible to anyone looking in the right direction. Maya pulled Aisha close, whispered directly into her ear. "We need a distraction. Something that pulls attention away from the central building for 90 seconds.
Like what?"
Aisha's voice trembled. "I'm a signals analyst, not a demolitions expert." Maya thought quickly. The motor pool contained 5 vehicles. If one caught fire, it would create chaos. But starting a fire required time they didn't have, and materials they weren't carrying. Then she spotted the generator building. Small structure on the compound's western wall, humming with the sound of diesel engine providing electrical power. If the power failed, interior lights would die, creating confusion and tactical advantage.
"Change of plans," Maya whispered. "See that generator building? You're going to cut power to the entire compound. That gives us darkness for infiltration." "How am I supposed to cut power? I don't have tools. I don't know anything about generators." "You know about electrical systems. Generators have fuel lines, electrical connections, cooling systems. Find something critical and break it."
Aisha stared at her. "You want me to sabotage a diesel generator while surrounded by armed terrorists?"
"Yes, I'll provide security. You have 3 minutes."
They moved toward the generator building, staying in shadows, Maya's suppressed pistol raised and ready. A guard walked past 15 meters away, talking on a radio in Arabic. Maya understood every word. He was complaining about guard duty, about being tired, about wanting to return to his bed. He never saw them, never knew how close he came to dying. At the generator building, Maya positioned herself with sightlines to approaching routes while Aisha examined the equipment. The generator was commercial grade, probably stolen from a construction site, providing power through cables that snaked toward the central building.
"I can pull the fuel line," Aisha whispered. "Diesel will spill, but the engine will die within 60 seconds as it burns through residual fuel in the system." "Do it."
Aisha worked with hands that shook, but remained functional. She loosened the fuel line connection, diesel immediately beginning to leak. The smell was overwhelming, acrid and chemical.
"We need to move," Maya said. "When that engine dies, everyone in this compound responds to investigate."
They sprinted back toward the central building, timing their movement to coincide with a guard rotation. The generator coughed once, twice, then died. Every light in the compound went dark. Shouting erupted immediately. Men's voices, confused and angry, yelling questions about what happened and who was responsible for maintenance. Flashlights clicked on. Thermal signatures converged on the generator building. Maya and Aisha reached the central building's rear entrance during the confusion. The door was locked. Maya pulled her entry tools, worked the mechanism with practiced efficiency. The lock yielded in 17 seconds.
Inside, they found a hallway lit only by emergency lighting. Dim red glow that preserved night vision. Maya moved point, pistol raised, clearing angles the way she'd been trained in places that didn't officially exist. Stairs led upward. Second floor, northwest corner, where Grant had spotted the isolated window with light. They climbed in silence. At the landing, voices reached them from above. 2 men, speaking Arabic, arguing about whether the power failure was mechanical problem or sabotage. Maya signaled Aisha to wait, then continued upward alone. She emerged into a hallway where 2 guards stood outside a closed door. They turned toward her, surprise registering on faces visible in the red emergency lighting. Maya fired twice. Suppressed pistol made quiet mechanical sounds. Both guards dropped. She moved forward immediately, caught one man before he hit the floor, lowered him quietly.
The second man fell with a soft thud. Aisha appeared at the top of the stairs, saw the bodies, saw Maya standing over them with pistol still raised.
"Oh my God," Aisha whispered. "You just killed them both. Just like that. Like it was nothing." "It's not nothing," Maya said quietly, feeling the familiar weight that came with taking lives. "It's necessary. There's a difference." She tried the door, locked from outside with a padlock. Maya pulled her bolt cutters from her kit, cut through the padlock's shackle in 2 compressions. The door swung open. Inside, Rebecca Holt sat on a bare mattress, hands bound with zip ties, face bruised and swollen from beating. She looked up as they entered, eyes widening in disbelief. "Who are you?" Rebecca's voice was hoarse from dehydration and screaming. "Lieutenant Maya Chen, United States Army. We're here to extract you." "You're American?" Rebecca started crying. "Oh God, you're actually American. I thought I was going to die here."
They said they were going to execute me tomorrow. They said nobody was coming. Maya cut the zip ties binding Rebecca's wrists, helped her stand. Rebecca's legs nearly gave out. She'd been sitting for extended periods, circulation compromised, muscles weak from malnutrition and stress. "Can you walk?" Maya asked. "I think so. I'm dizzy, but I can move." "Good, because we're leaving right now, and it's going to get loud." Aisha supported Rebecca from the other side. They moved into the hallway, where the 2 dead guards lay in spreading pools of blood. Rebecca saw them, made a small sound of shock. "Don't look," Maya said. "Focus on getting out alive." They'd reached the stairs when the shouting started behind them. Someone had discovered the bodies. Alarm was raised. Flashlight beams swept through the hallway they'd just vacated. "Contact rear!" Maya pushed Rebecca and Aisha toward the stairs. "Move, now!" They descended as men poured into the hallway above. Someone fired. Julets impacted stone walls, ricochets screaming through confined space. Maya returned fire, suppressed pistol spitting rounds that forced pursuers into cover. At the ground floor, they burst through the rear exit into compound darkness. The generator was still dead. Flashlights created moving pools of illumination that made night vision useless. Maya ripped her night vision device off, let it hang from its mount. Her eyes adjusted to darkness. She could see compound layout from memorization, navigate by spatial awareness developed through years of operating in places where lights meant dying. "This way!" She led them toward the eastern wall, toward the drainage culvert they'd infiltrated through. Men appeared from the left, 3 fighters with AK-47s, responding to the alarm. They saw Maya's group, raised weapons. Maya fired first. 3 rounds, center mass on the nearest threat. He dropped. The other 2 took cover, returning fire. Bullets snapped past Maya's head, close enough to feel pressure waves. She pushed Rebecca and Aisha toward cover behind a parked vehicle. "Stay down!" One fighter maneuvered to flank them. Maya tracked his movement, waited for him to commit to his angle, then put 2 rounds through his chest when he emerged from behind a wall. He fell without making sound beyond the wet impact of bullets entering flesh. The third fighter fired wildly, panic overtaking training. His rounds went high and wide. Maya aimed carefully, controlled her breathing despite elevated heart rate, pressed the trigger twice. Both rounds found their mark. The fighter collapsed. "We're clear! Move!" Maya grabbed Rebecca, hauled her to her feet. They ran toward the eastern wall. Behind them, the compound erupted into chaos. Men shouting, weapons firing, someone screaming orders in Arabic about finding the Americans and killing them. At the drainage culvert, Maya pushed Rebecca through first, then Aisha. She turned back toward the compound, providing covering fire as men converged on their position. Her pistol ran dry. She dropped the magazine, seated a fresh one, continued engaging. A fighter emerged 20 meters away, flashlight mounted on his rifle. The beam illuminated Maya directly. For one frozen second, they made eye contact. The fighter raised his weapon. Maya raised hers. They fired simultaneously. The fighter's round missed by centimeters, so close it tugged at her uniform sleeve. Maya's rounds didn't miss. 2 hits sent her mass. The fighter fell backward. Maya dove into the culvert as bullets chewed through the space she'd occupied. The drainage tunnel was tight, barely wide enough to crawl through. She moved on hands and knees, arms scraped raw against concrete, pursuing the light from Aisha's flashlight ahead. They emerged outside the compound walls into terrain that had never felt more welcoming. Maya keyed her radio. "Grant, this is Chen.
We're clear of the compound with precious cargo. Converging on your position. Confirm you've got security established." Grant's voice came back immediately.
"Confirmed, we've got overwatch. And, Staff Sergeant, you've got approximately 40 hostiles exiting that compound in pursuit. They're organizing fast."
Understood. Initiating movement to extraction point.
The climb back up the ridgeline was brutal. Rebecca could barely walk. They had to support her between them, half carrying her up slopes that had been challenging when they were fresh. Now, exhausted and operating on adrenaline reserves, every step felt like moving through concrete. Behind them, flashlights swept the valley. Voices carried through the night. Men organizing pursuit. Dogs barking.
"They've got tracking dogs,"
Aisha said, voice breaking with exhaustion and fear.
"They're going to follow our scent trail directly to us." "Then we move faster,"
Maya said.
Doc appeared from darkness, materializing like a ghost. He took Rebecca's other side, supporting her weight.
"Heard shooting," Doc said. "Figured you might need medical." "She's dehydrated, malnourished, possible concussion from beating," Maya said.
"Can she survive movement to extraction point?"
Doc assessed Rebecca quickly, checking pupil response, asking questions about symptoms. "She can make it if we maintain current pace. But Staff Sergeant, those pursuit elements are gaining. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they're in effective weapons range." They reached Grant's position. He'd already packed essential equipment, ready to move. "Extraction point is 2 kilometers northwest," Maya said. "FOB Viper is sending vehicles to grid November Delta 742836. We've got approximately 45 minutes to cover that distance while being pursued by superior forces with dogs and home terrain advantage."
"So just another Tuesday," Grant said, attempting humor that nobody had energy to appreciate.
They moved out in tactical formation. Grant on point, navigating. Doc and Aisha supporting Rebecca between them. Maya pulling rear security, walking backward half the time, watching their back trail for pursuing forces. At the 20-minute mark, the first pursuer appeared. Single fighter, moving faster than the main element, probably a scout. He spotted Maya's group, raised his rifle. Maya fired first. Single shot. The fighter dropped. That gunshot betrayed their position perfectly. The pursuit element adjusted course, converging directly on the engagement site. "Contact rear," Maya called. "Increase pace. We've got 60 seconds before main element arrives." They ran. Rebecca stumbled, nearly fell. Doc caught her, lifted her in a fireman's carry, continued moving despite carrying 130 pounds of dead weight.
Maya maintained position, laying down suppressive fire as pursuers closed distance. Her rifle ran low on ammunition. She'd started with 210 rounds. She'd fired approximately 80. Math said she had maybe 5 magazines remaining. The extraction point appeared ahead. 2 MRAPs with engines running, ready for immediate departure. The vehicles had their ramps down, crew chiefs waving them forward. They covered the final 100 meters in a sprint. Doc practically threw Rebecca into the first vehicle. Aisha dove in after her,
Grant followed, turning to provide covering fire. Maya ran toward the second MRAP as bullets began impacting around them. Enemy forces had closed to effective range. Rounds sparked off the vehicle's armor. She reached the ramp, started to climb aboard. Then she saw him. Abu Samir, the compound commander, standing 50 meters away with an RPG on his shoulder, aiming directly at the MRAP Maya was boarding. Time compressed. Maya's mind calculated trajectories, blast radius, casualties. If that RPG hit the vehicle, everyone inside died. Rebecca, Aisha, Grant, Doc, all dead because Maya had led them here. She made her decision in the half-second before Abu Samir fired. Maya dove off the ramp, rolled, came up on one knee with her rifle shouldered. Abu Samir was already pressing his trigger. Maya fired first. Her round took him in the shoulder. His aim shifted as he fell. The RPG launched but traveled wide, impacting 20 meters from the vehicle in a fireball that illuminated the entire engagement area. Abu Samir lay on the ground, wounded but alive. He reached for a pistol at his belt. Maya fired again, this time center mass. He stopped moving. "Chen, get in the vehicle!" Grant screamed from the ramp. Maya ran. Bullets chased her, kicking up dirt at her feet. She dove through the ramp opening as the MRAP's driver accelerated, not waiting for the ramp to fully close. Inside, she lay gasping on the metal floor while the vehicle bounced through terrain at speeds that threatened to flip it. Someone's hands pulled her further inside. The ramp finally closed, sealing them in armored protection. "Is everyone alive?" Maya managed to ask. "All present," Doc said. "Rebecca's stable. Aisha's got minor abrasions. Grant tweaked his ankle, but he's mobile. And you just saved all of us by engaging that RPG gunner instead of saving yourself." Maya sat up, leaned against the vehicle's interior wall. Her hands were shaking now. Delayed stress response, her body processing what her mind had compartmentalized during action. Rebecca Holt looked at her through tear-streaked eyes. "You came for me. Everyone said nobody was coming. But you came." "We don't leave Americans behind," Maya said quietly. "That's not who we are." The MRAs drove through darkness toward Forward Operating Base Viper, toward safety, toward the reckoning that waited when Colonel Brennan learned his setup had succeeded in ways he'd never anticipated. And Maya touched her forearm where Khalid al-Zawahiri's name remained hidden beneath fabric, adding another weight to the collection she carried. Abu Samir, the 2 guards in the hallway, the 3 fighters in the compound, the scout on the ridgeline. 7 more names that would join the others in dreams that prevented sleeping. But Rebecca Holt was alive, and sometimes that had to be enough. Forward Operating Base Viper's gates opened at 0447 hours. The MRAPs rolled through security checkpoints into a compound already buzzing with activity despite the early hour. Word had spread that the impossible mission had somehow succeeded. Colonel Brennan stood in the Tactical Operations Center, arms crossed, face unreadable. Captain Stone stood beside him, jaw clenched so tight Maya could see the muscle twitching from across the room. The medical team descended on Rebecca Holt immediately. They transferred her to a stretcher, started IV fluids, began their assessment while she protested that she could walk on her own. Doc stayed with her, providing medical handoff to the trauma physician, explaining her condition in the clinical language that doctors used to distance themselves from the human cost of violence. Maya's team dismounted more slowly. Aisha's legs nearly gave out when she tried to stand. The adrenaline crash was hitting hard. Grant caught her arm, steadied her. "Easy," Grant said. "You did good out there. Better than good. You sabotaged that generator like you'd been doing covert operations your whole life." "I was terrified the entire time," Aisha admitted,
voice shaking. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Maya said, repeating Rachel's words.
It's doing what needs doing, despite being terrified. You were courageous tonight.
Brennan approached, accompanied by Stone and 3 other senior officers Maya didn't immediately recognize. His expression was complicated, containing anger, disbelief, and something approaching grudging respect. "Staff Sergeant Chen," Brennan said formally. "Initial reports indicate successful extraction of Rebecca Holt from hostile territory. Casualty status?" "0 friendly casualties, sir. Ms. Holt sustained injuries from captivity but is stable and receiving treatment. Enemy casualties are estimated at 7 confirmed kills, unknown number wounded." Stone made a sound of disbelief. 7 enemy killed by 4 personnel? That's statistically improbable. 7 confirmed kills by 1 person, sir, Grant interjected. Staff Sergeant Chen engaged all hostile targets. We provided security and support, but she executed the actual combat operations. Brennan's eyes narrowed.
You're telling me Lieutenant Chen personally killed 7 enemy combatants during a solo infiltration of a fortified compound?
Yes, sir, Doc confirmed. We observed her eliminate 2 sentries during initial breach, engage multiple targets during exfiltration, and neutralize an RPG gunner who was targeting our extraction vehicles. Her performance was consistent with someone possessing advanced special operations training. The Tactical Operations Center had gone absolutely silent. Every person present was listening to this exchange, processing the implications. Stone recovered first. That's impossible. She's an intelligence analyst with 6 months in theater. She doesn't have the training or experience for— Captain Stone, a new voice interrupted. The voice carried authority that made everyone in the room instinctively straighten. I suggest you stop talking before you further embarrass yourself and this command. A figure emerged from the Operations Center's secure communications room. Colonel James Marquez, 51 years old, JSOC commander with a chest full of medals from wars nobody talked about. He wore civilian clothes but carried himself with the bearing of someone who'd commanded men in the worst places on Earth. Maya felt her stomach drop. Marquez's presence meant her cover was about to be completely destroyed. Sir, Brennan said, clearly confused about why a JSOC colonel was present at his forward operating base. I wasn't informed we'd be receiving distinguished visitors. That's because my visit is classified at a level you don't possess clearance to know about, Colonel Brennan, Marquez said. But since Lieutenant Chen's operational security has been compromised by her successful mission, which you designed to fail, incidentally, I'm here to provide context before you make additional mistakes. Additional mistakes, sir? Marquez walked directly to Maya. Lieutenant Chen, or should I use your operational call sign? Phantom, the operator who officially died in Yemen 18 months ago during a training accident that never actually occurred. Every eye in the room locked onto Maya. She maintained rigid parade rest, unwilling to confirm or deny anything without explicit orders. Marquez continued, addressing the room. What you've all assumed was an intelligence analyst is actually a JSOC asset operating under deep cover. Lieutenant Chen has executed 13 direct action missions in denied areas. She holds the Silver Star for actions in Yemen that officially never happened. She's credited with 23 confirmed enemy kills prior to tonight's operation, which brings her total to 30. Stone's face had gone pale. That's not possible. She's 23 years old. She's 23 years old and has more combat experience than every person in this room combined, Marquez said. Her assignment to FOB Viper was intentional. We needed someone inside conventional forces who could operate autonomously if regional situation deteriorated. What we didn't anticipate was your command creating a hostile work environment that forced her to reveal capabilities she was supposed to keep hidden. Brennan found his voice. Sir, I was never briefed about any JSOC asset embedded in my command structure. That's the nature of deep cover, Colonel. You weren't supposed to know. But you created conditions where she had no choice except to execute a mission that exposed her true background. Marquez turned to Maya. At ease, Lieutenant. And, for the record, your performance tonight was exemplary. Textbook special operations execution under adverse conditions. Maya relaxed fractionally. Thank you, sir. Though I'd prefer my cover had remained intact. Cover's compromised, Marquez said. We'll adjust. But first, we need to address some institutional problems at this FOB. He turned back to Brennan. Colonel, your mechanized assault plan would have resulted in catastrophic failure. Rebecca Holt would be dead, you'd have lost personnel, and this incident would be an international embarrassment. The only reason you're not preparing casualty notifications right now is because you delegated the mission to someone you expected to fail, but who actually possessed the expertise to succeed. Brennan's jaw worked. Sir, I made tactical decisions based on available intelligence and assigned capabilities. You made decisions based on gender bias and faulty assumptions, Marquez interrupted. Let me be clear about something, Colonel. The military is changing. Women are serving in special operations. They're executing missions at the same level as their male counterparts. Your inability to recognize capability because it doesn't match your preconceptions represents a fundamental failure of leadership. Stone tried to defend his commander. Sir, with respect, combat effectiveness studies show... Captain Stone, the woman standing 10 feet from you just infiltrated a hostile compound, killed 7 enemy combatants, extracted a kidnapped American journalist, and defeated pursuit by superior forces. What exactly do your studies show about her effectiveness? Stone had no answer. Marquez pulled a folder from his jacket. Rebecca Holt is a journalist with substantial platform and influence. She's already requesting permission to write about her rescue. I've reviewed her draft. It's detailed, accurate, and will expose the conditions that led to Lieutenant Chen being forced to reveal her capabilities. Brennan's face went from pale to red. Sir, I request that article be suppressed for operational security. Denied. The operational security concern is legitimate, but the institutional accountability is more important. This command needs to understand that capability exists independent of gender, race, or any other irrelevant factor. You judged Lieutenant Chen based on assumptions rather than evidence. That judgment nearly cost an American life. The silence in the operations center was crushing. Maya watched careers ending in real time, watched men who'd underestimated her, processing the reality that their assumptions had been catastrophically wrong. Vargas appeared at the operations center entrance. He caught Maya's eye, nodded once. The gesture conveyed respect, acknowledgement, and something approaching vindication. Rebecca Holt entered moments later, refusing to remain in medical when she'd heard confrontation was occurring. She wore borrowed fatigues, IV still connected to her arm, but walking on her own. The trauma physician followed her, protesting that she needed rest. I need to say something, Rebecca announced, voice hoarse but determined. I was in that compound for 3 days. They beat me. They starved me. They told me nobody was coming because I wasn't important enough. Then she came. Rebecca pointed at Maya. She killed the guards. She got me out. She saved my life when everyone else had written me off as acceptable loss. Ms. Holt, you should be resting, Brennan started. I'll rest when I've said what needs saying, Rebecca interrupted. I'm a journalist. I've covered conflicts in 12 countries. I've interviewed generals and politicians and operators. And I'm telling you that what she did tonight was the most professionally executed combat operation I've ever witnessed. She moved like death itself.
And when that RPG was about to hit our vehicle, she sacrificed her own safety to engage the gunner. She saved all of us. Tears were streaming down Rebecca's face now. So you can make excuses. You can cite studies. You can talk about biology and limitations. But I'm alive because she's better at her job than you are at yours. That's just fact.
The trauma physician finally convinced Rebecca to sit. She collapsed into a chair, exhausted and shaking, but satisfied she'd spoken her piece. Marquez addressed Brennan again.
Colonel, you have 48 hours to submit a detailed after-action report explaining how you created an environment where a decorated special operations veteran felt compelled to risk her cover to prove she deserved basic professional respect. That report will be reviewed at echelons above your command level. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Captain Stone, you're relieved of duties pending investigation into multiple counts of creating a hostile work environment and professional misconduct. You'll be reassigned to administrative duties effective immediately. Stone opened his mouth to protest. Marquez's expression stopped him. Dismissed, Captain. Before you say something that makes this worse. Stone left, defeated and humiliated. Maya felt no satisfaction watching him go, just exhaustion and the familiar weight of carrying secrets that grew heavier with each revelation. Marquez approached Maya privately after the crowd dispersed. We need to talk about your future. Sir? Your cover is burned. Every person on this FOB knows you're not really an analyst. That creates security problems and operational limitations. He paused. I want to bring you back to JSOC. Resume your position with the unit. You're too valuable to waste on conventional assignments. Maya had known this conversation was coming, had been dreading it since the moment Marquez appeared. Sir, I left JSOC for reasons that remain valid. I was becoming something I didn't want to be. The work was hollowing me out. I needed distance. And have you found what you were looking for in conventional forces? Marquez asked. Or have you just been hiding from who you actually are? The question cut deep because Maya didn't have a good answer. She'd been pretending to be an analyst while carrying skills that made pretending impossible. She'd been trying to be normal while remaining fundamentally shaped by abnormal experiences. I don't know, sir, Maya admitted. I know I made a promise to someone I lost. Rachel Ortiz. She told me to finish the fight, to keep protecting people. But I don't know if that means returning to JSOC or finding a different way to serve. Marquez studied her with the assessment of someone who'd commanded operators through impossible situations. Rachel Ortiz was killed in Mosul. Vehicle ambush. Bled out from femoral artery injury while you tried to save her. That's the incident that pushed you into JSOC operations, isn't it? Trying to honor her memory by being the best operator possible. Yes, sir. And now you're trying to honor her memory by being something else, by proving you're more than just a weapon. Marquez nodded. I understand that impulse, but Lieutenant Chen, the world needs weapons who choose when to fire. It needs operators who maintain their humanity despite the work. That's rare. That's valuable. And that's what you are. Maya felt tears threatening. She controlled them through sheer discipline. I'm offering you a choice, Marquez said. Return to JSOC and continue direct action operations, or accept a position training the next generation of special operations personnel, teaching them how to be effective without losing themselves, passing on everything Rachel taught you. The second option resonated immediately. Maya could see it clearly. Teaching younger operators how to maintain their humanity while doing inhuman work. Honoring Rachel not by being her, but by multiplying her impact through others.
The training position, sir, if it's genuinely available.
It's available. And Lieutenant, you've earned it. What you did tonight wasn't just tactically sound, it was morally sound. You risked everything to save someone who'd been written off. That's the kind of operator we need training others. Marquez extended his hand. Maya shook it, feeling something shift inside her. Not closure, she'd never have that, but direction. Purpose that didn't require hiding or pretending. There's one more thing, Marquez said. The Silver Star you earned in Yemen. It's been sitting in a classified vault because the operation was too sensitive to acknowledge. Now that your cover's burned anyway, we're upgrading it to Distinguished Service Cross and presenting it in a proper ceremony. You've earned recognition.
Sir, I'd prefer to keep it quiet. I didn't do the work for medals.
Too late. Rebecca Holt's article is going to make you famous whether you want it or not. Better to control the narrative than let it control you. Maya wanted to argue, but recognized the tactical reality. Her story was going public. She could either shape it or be shaped by it.
Understood, sir.
Marquez left to coordinate with higher headquarters. Maya found herself alone in the operations center, except for Vargas, who'd been waiting quietly. So, Vargas said. Phantom, the ghost who refused to stay dead.
Please don't call me that,
Maya said.
That person got people killed.
That person saved Rebecca Holt tonight, saved your entire team, proved that capability exists independent of anyone's expectations. Vargas smiled. Rachel would be proud. Maya pulled the photograph from her cargo pocket. Rachel, grinning in Mosul, arm around a younger Maya who still believed in simple answers.
Rachel believed I could be better than my worst moments,
Maya said quietly.
I'm still trying to figure out if she was right.
She was right, Vargas said. You just proved it. Outside, dawn was breaking across the Syrian desert. The same sun that illuminated violence also illuminated hope. The same light that exposed threats also revealed paths forward. Maya touched her forearm where Khalid al-Zawahiri's name remained hidden beneath fabric. 7 more names would join it eventually. The weight would increase. But maybe, if she was teaching others to carry weight without being crushed by it, the burden could become bearable. Rebecca Holt appeared again, IV removed, walking steadier now.
Lieutenant Chen, can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
Why did you come for me? You could have declined the mission, let someone else handle it. Why risk everything?
Maya considered various answers, selected honesty. Because someone once told me that courage is doing what needs doing despite being terrified. That finishing the fight matters more than comfort or safety. Her name was Rachel Ortiz, and she died fighting. I came for you because that's what she would have done. And honoring her memory means being the person she believed I could be. Rebecca nodded, understanding.
I'm writing about this. About you. About what happened.
I know you'd prefer I didn't, but this story matters. People need to know that capability has no gender, that assumptions kill, that quiet women can be the most dangerous operators on any battlefield.
Write what you need to write,
Maya said.
Just understand that I didn't do this for recognition. I did it because it was right.
That's exactly why the story matters, Rebecca said. She left, returning to medical for treatment she actually needed. Maya stood alone, watching the sun climb higher, feeling the burn scars across her back begin their daily routine of phantom pain that would never fully heal. But Rebecca Holt was alive. And sometimes, in a world that specialized in taking, that had to be enough. 3 weeks passed before Maya received orders to Washington, D.C.
She'd assumed the summons meant reassignment, possibly disciplinary action for compromising her cover, or at minimum, an administrative debriefing that would bury her story in classified files nobody would ever read. She was wrong about all of it. The flight from Syria to Andrews Air Force Base took 14 hours with 2 refueling stops. Maya used the time to process everything that had happened since the mission. Rebecca Holt's article had published in the Washington Post 5 days after the rescue, titled "The Ghost Who Saved My Life: How Military Assumptions Nearly Cost an American Journalist Everything." The article was devastating in its accuracy. Rebecca had documented the dismissive treatment Maya received, quoted Stone's comments about women cracking under pressure, detailed Brennan's setup designed to prove capability limitations. Then she'd contrasted those assumptions with clinical description of Maya's actual performance: the infiltration, the kills, the extraction, the sacrifice when facing the RPG gunner. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Congressional inquiries, Department of Defense investigations, media coverage that transformed Maya from anonymous operator into national conversation about gender, capability, and institutional bias. Maya hated every second of it. She'd never wanted attention. She'd wanted to do the work quietly, honor Rachel's memory privately, and avoid becoming a symbol for causes she hadn't asked to represent. But symbols didn't require permission. They existed whether you wanted them to or not. At Andrews, a staff car waited. The driver was Army, specialist rank, professional, and silent. They drove through D.C. traffic toward the Pentagon, where Maya assumed her debriefing would occur. Instead, they diverted to Fort Myer, home of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment and location for military ceremonies. Maya's confusion increased when they arrived at a building where dress uniforms waited in a private room. A female lieutenant colonel Maya didn't recognize entered, carrying garment bags. "Lieutenant Chen, I'm Colonel Sarah Edmonds. I'll be assisting with your preparation for this afternoon's ceremony." "Ceremony, ma'am?" "You're being awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for actions in Yemen that have been recently declassified. Additionally, you're receiving the Bronze Star with Valor device for last month's operation in Syria." Edmonds smiled. "I know you'd prefer this remain quiet, but that option doesn't exist. Secretary of Defense will be presenting, media will be present. Your story matters to people, whether you're comfortable with that or not." Maya felt trapped. "Ma'am, I didn't do the work for recognition. I did it because it needed doing." "I know. That's exactly why recognition matters. Because you represent something important, capability that exists independent of assumptions. Women who serve deserve to see that reflected and honored." The dress uniform fit perfectly. Someone had obtained her measurements and tailored everything precisely. Maya studied herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the person staring back. She looked like a soldier from recruitment posters. She felt like a fraud. "You're not a fraud," Edmonds said, reading her expression. "You're a decorated combat veteran who's earned every ribbon on that uniform. Stop doubting yourself and accept what you've accomplished." The ceremony was held in a formal hall that had witnessed countless military events. Maya entered to find the room filled with people. She recognized Marquez immediately, wearing his dress uniform with the chest full of medals he'd actually earned. Vargas sat in the 3rd row, nodding when their eyes met. Grant, Aisha, and Doc occupied seats together, all in their dress uniforms, all looking proud. Rebecca Holt sat in the front row beside an empty seat. She'd lost weight since the rescue, still recovering physically from her captivity, but her eyes were clear and focused. The seat beside Rebecca was reserved. A placard read, "In memory of SFC Rachel Ortiz, KIA, Mosul, Iraq." Maya felt her throat constrict. Someone had remembered.
Someone had honored Rachel's role in shaping the operator Maya had become. The ceremony began with formal military precision. Citations were read in language that transformed violence into valor, that sanitized the reality of close-quarters killing into heroic narrative. Maya stood at attention while the Secretary of Defense pinned medals to her uniform, while cameras flashed, while people who'd never experienced combat applauded actions they couldn't truly understand.
But when the secretary stepped back and Marquez approached to shake her hand, he whispered something the microphones didn't catch. "Rachel would be proud. You finished the fight." That broke through Maya's carefully maintained composure. Tears threatened. She controlled them through discipline, but barely. The reception following the ceremony was worse than the ceremony itself. People Maya didn't know approached with congratulations, with questions about her experience, with requests for photographs. She maintained professional courtesy while desperately wanting to escape. Rebecca found her during a brief moment of privacy. "I know you hate this, but it matters, Maya. Your story is changing conversations about who belongs in combat roles. Congressional hearings are being scheduled. Policy reviews are happening. You're making it easier for every woman who comes after you." "I just wanted to do my job," Maya said quietly. "I didn't want to be a symbol." "Symbols don't require permission," Rebecca said, echoing Maya's own thoughts. "They exist because they're needed. And right now, you're needed." Grant, Aisha, and Doc approached together. They'd been waiting for an opportunity to speak privately. "Staff Sergeant," Grant said formally, then grinned. "Sorry, Lieutenant. Still getting used to the promotion." Maya had been promoted to first lieutenant effective immediately, part of the recognition package that accompanied the medals. "The promotion feels wrong," Maya admitted. "I didn't do anything special. I just executed the mission." "You saved my life," Aisha said. "You saved all of us. And you did it while being dismissed and underestimated and set up to fail. That's not just executing a mission. That's being better than everyone expected, despite them doing everything possible to ensure you'd fail." Doc pulled something from his pocket. A photograph. Maya recognized it immediately. Rachel Ortiz in Mosul, arm around a younger Maya. "You dropped this during equipment check before the mission," Doc said. "I've been carrying it since then, waiting for the right moment to return it. This feels like that moment." Maya accepted the photograph, ran her thumb across Rachel's face. "She died because I made mistakes. Because I selected the wrong route, pushed the timeline, made tactical decisions that got her killed. She died because war is violent and unpredictable, and sometimes good people die despite everyone doing everything right," Doc said. "I've lost patients on my table, patients I did everything possible to save. And I carried that guilt until I understood something important. Honoring them means being better, not being perfect. You honored Rachel by saving Rebecca, by saving us, by being the operator she believed you could become." Maya wanted to believe that. To accept that Rachel's death could mean something beyond permanent guilt. But the weight remained. Vargas materialized from the crowd. "Lieutenant Chen, got a minute?" They walked to a quieter corner. Vargas pulled an envelope from his jacket. "Transfer orders," he said, "for both of us. We're being assigned to the Special Operations Training Center. You're running the Advanced Tactics program for female operators. I'm your assistant instructor. Marquez pushed it through personally." "You're leaving your current assignment to teach with me?" "I'm leaving my current assignment because teaching matters more than continuing to operate," Vargas said. "We've both done the violence. We've both carried the weight. Now we pass on what we've learned so the next generation doesn't make the same mistakes we did." Maya opened the envelope, scanned the orders. "Assignment effective in 30 days.
Location was Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Position was exactly what Marquez had described. Training advanced special operations personnel in tactics, decision-making, and maintaining humanity despite the work.
This is what Rachel would want, Maya said quietly. Her teaching me teaching others, multiplying the impact.
Exactly, Vargas confirmed. And there's something else. Someone specifically requested to be in your first training class. He nodded toward the entrance. Aisha stood there, now wearing different uniform. She'd transferred from intelligence to combat arms, begun the pipeline toward special operations qualification.
She's serious about this?
Maya asked. Dead serious. She said if someone as scared as she was could successfully execute that mission in Syria, she could do anything. You inspired her. Now you get to train her properly. Maya felt something shift. Not relief from the weight she carried, that would never fully lift, but direction,
Purpose that extended beyond individual missions to systemic impact.
The reception concluded. Maya escaped to the private room where she'd changed into dress uniform. She stood alone, staring at the medals pinned to her chest, thinking about the cost of earning each ribbon. Colonel Edmonds entered. There's one more thing. Someone wants to speak with you privately. She opened the door wider. An older woman entered, maybe 60, with eyes that carried the particular grief of military families who'd lost someone.
Lieutenant Chen, I'm Patricia Ortiz, Rachel's mother.
Maya's breath caught. She'd met Rachel's mother once, briefly, at the funeral, had stood in the receiving line while Patricia sobbed and accepted condolences that meant nothing because her daughter was still dead.
Ma'am,
Maya started, but Patricia raised her hand.
I read Rebecca Holt's article. I learned things about my daughter's death I didn't know before. About how you tried to save her.
About the promise you made at her funeral. About how you've been honoring her memory through every mission since then.
Tears were streaming down Patricia's face now.
I wanted to thank you for loving my daughter enough to carry her forward, for being the operator she believed you could become, for finishing the fight.
Maya felt her own tears finally breaking through the discipline that had contained them.
I'm so sorry I couldn't save her. I tried everything. I maintained pressure on the artery. I called for medevac. But she bled out before help arrived and
Patricia embraced her.
You did everything possible. Rachel knew the risks. She accepted them because she believed the work mattered. And she believed you mattered. That you'd continue making a difference after she was gone.
They stood together, two women bound by grief and love for someone who'd died fighting. Eventually, Patricia pulled back, wiped her eyes.
Rachel left something for you.
I've been holding it, waiting for the right moment.
She pulled a small box from her purse.
She wrote you a letter, sealed it, gave it to me, told me to deliver it if she died in combat. I've been carrying it for 7 months, waiting to feel ready. Today feels right.
Maya accepted the box with shaking hands. Inside was an envelope with her name in Rachel's distinctive handwriting.
Read it when you're ready, Patricia said. And know that Rachel loved you like a sister, that she was proud of you, that everything you've become is exactly what she hoped for.
Patricia left. Maya was alone with the envelope, terrified to open it, unable to not open it. She broke the seal. Rachel's letter was 2 pages, handwritten, dated the day before the mission where she died.
Maya, it began. If you're reading this, I didn't make it home. I'm sorry for that. Sorry you had to watch me die. Sorry you're carrying that weight.
But I need you to understand something important.
My death isn't your fault. War kills people. Sometimes it kills good people, despite everyone doing everything right. Don't let my death define you. Don't let guilt transform you into something hard and broken. Instead, let my life inspire you. I believed you were the best operator I'd ever worked with. I believed you'd continue making a difference long after I was gone. I believed you'd be better than your worst moments. I still believe that. So finish the fight. Protect people. Train the next generation. Be the leader I knew you could become. And Maya, forgive yourself. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's how you honor me. By living fully instead of dying slowly from guilt. I love you. Stay dangerous. Rachel. Maya read the letter 3 times. Each word felt like Rachel speaking directly to her. Permission to move forward. Permission to be more than her grief. Permission to honor Rachel through living rather than dying. She pulled out her phone, made a call she'd been avoiding. Marquez? Sir, it's Lieutenant Chen. I accept the training position. And I want to request something additional. Name it. I want to establish a scholarship in Rachel Ortiz's name for female operators pursuing special operations qualification. I want her legacy to be more women getting the opportunities she fought for. Silence on the line. Then Marquez's voice, thick with emotion. Consider it done. I'll personally ensure that scholarship is funded and promoted. Rachel would approve. Maya ended the call. She looked at the medals on her uniform, at Rachel's letter in her hands, at the reflection in the mirror showing who she'd become. She wasn't just Phantom anymore. Wasn't just the ghost who refused to stay buried. She was Maya Chen, combat veteran, decorated operator, future instructor who would train the next generation to be better than assumptions, better than bias, better than the limitations anyone tried to impose. The burn scars across her back would never fully heal. The phantom pain would continue. The weight of 30 confirmed kills would remain. But those scars and that weight were proof she'd survived, proof she'd fought, proof she'd finished Rachel's fight by being better than expected. 3 months later, Maya stood in front of her first training class at Fort Bragg. 18 students, 12 women and 6 men, all pursuing special operations qualification. Aisha sat in the front row, nervous but determined. My name is Lieutenant Maya Chen, Maya began. Some of you know my story. Some of you read about the Syria operation. Some of you think you understand what this training entails. You're all wrong. This course isn't about proving you're tough enough or capable enough. This course is about learning to maintain your humanity while doing inhuman work. It's about honoring the people who came before us by being better than anyone expects. And it's about understanding that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what needs doing despite being terrified. She paused, looked at each student individually. I lost someone important to me. Her name was Rachel Ortiz. She taught me everything that matters about being an operator. And now I'm going to teach you everything she taught me. This will be hard. Some of you will quit. Some of you will fail. But those who finish will be the most dangerous, most effective, most human operators the military has ever produced. Because that's what Rachel believed was possible. And I'm going to prove she was right. The training began. Maya drove her students hard, pushed them beyond what they believed possible, taught them to be better than their worst moments. And every night, she touched her forearm where Khalid al-Zawahiri's name remained inked beneath fabric, now accompanied by new ink above it, Rachel's name, honoring the light instead of dwelling in darkness. Rebecca Holt's article had sparked national conversation. Congressional hearings resulted in policy changes that opened special operations to more women. Brennan had quietly retired. Stone had been discharged. The military was slowly, imperfectly, changing. And Maya Chen, the ghost who refused to stay buried, the operator who'd been told to bow or die, had chosen neither option. She'd chosen to fight, to survive, to honor the dead by teaching the living, to prove that capability existed independent of anyone's assumptions. The mission that was designed to break her had become the moment she stopped hiding and started leading. And somewhere, in whatever waited beyond death, Rachel Ortiz was smiling. Because the fight was finished. Not by dying, by living, by being better.
By refusing to bow to anyone's limitations except the ones she chose for herself.
And Maya Chen had chosen to be limitless.